What we never planned. Episode 3. She still has the notebook. Some people fall into care work. They needed a job. The timing was right. Someone they knew was hiring. And they stayed. She did not fall into it. She chose it deliberately at 23 when she had other options. Her first week was on a care ward. She met a man in his late 80s, former structural engineer, precise, proud. He hadn't had a proper conversation in 6 days. Not because no one was there, but because everyone was busy. She sat down. She did not rush. She asked about his work. He talked for 40 minutes about a bridge he helped design in 1978. The name of the river, the name of the architect, the year the bridge opened. He was exact about all of it. That evening, she wrote in a small notebook she had bought for the job. Today, I understood why I am here. By week 3, she knew the rhythm of the shift, which residents needed extra time in the morning, which families called on which days, which colleague to find if things became difficult. She knew the word. She also knew how long she spent on the documentation system. At week 6, she started timing it. Not because anyone told her to, because the numbers seemed impossible. On a good day, 90 minutes, out of an 8-hour shift. Not caring for anyone, documenting that she had cared. On a shift with incidents, assessments, handover notes, medication verification, 3 hours. She asked colleagues. They timed the same numbers. She asked the senior nurse. The senior nurse said, "This is the job." It has always been the job. She opened the notebook that evening not to write a memory, to write a question. Is the job documentation? Or is the documentation the evidence that I did the job? She asked exactly the right question. The system had spent 20 years refusing to answer it. By year 2, she had been promoted. She managed a small team. People wanted her on their shift. She was good at this. She was also considering leaving. Not because the residents had become less important to her, but because the proportion of her day spent with residents had decreased, not increased, as she advanced. Promotion in long-term care does not mean more time caring. It means more administrative responsibility. She applied for a role in another sector, not healthcare. The application asked her to describe her relevant experience. She wrote a line about her operational efficiency experience and documentation management skills. She wrote it without irony. She read it back and recognized something she hadn't had a word for. She was describing her grief as a skill set. There was someone else on the ward, 10 years older. She had watched 3 generations of young caregivers arrive. She had watched most of them leave. She stayed. Not because the documentation was lighter for her. It was not. Not because the system had improved. It had not. She stayed because she had learned something the system never taught. The difference between the shift and the moment. The shift is 8 hours. The moment is 30 seconds with an old man who remembers the name of the river. You cannot protect the shift. You can only protect the moments inside it. She is still there. 7 years later, the same ward, different residents, different team, the same documentation system with a newer interface. The pajama time is still there. The evenings she finishes at home what the shift could not contain. She stayed because she made a decision. Quiet somewhere in year 2, without announcing it to anyone. She decided that the moments belonged to her and to them in a way that no system can fully reach. Not because the system doesn't try, because she decided. She sat with a resident last week, an older woman, former teacher. She had not had a proper conversation in 4 days. They talked for 30 minutes about a classroom in 1971, about a student she still thinks about. The screen waited. It is always waiting. She still has the notebook, the one from the first week. She stopped writing in it after year 1. She kept it. Some things you keep. If you entered this work because you believed in it, if you ever sat with someone who hadn't spoken to anyone in days and felt in that moment exactly why you are here, you are not alone in this. There are caregivers in facilities across the world carrying the same weight, timing the same hours, writing the same question in a notebook they will never throw away, protecting the moments inside a shift that keeps trying to consume them. You are not alone in this. This podcast is called What We Never Planned. It's about the things that happen when care arrives before we were ready for it. I am Anand Chaturvedi.